Okay, again, let's call a meeting to order. Let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any presentations by anyone here tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. Do we have anything for public hearings? If not, we'll move on to adjustments to the agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add or subtract?
Did we want to add the discussion of the municipal valuation
Yes,
return at
that's,
tonight's meeting?
I was going to,
Okay, so
Okay.
I'd move that we add that under, I guess it's old business, 11.2.
it's never been on the agenda before for
hasn't?
signature,
All right.
so.
Then it
So,
begins.
sorry, new business, 10.3.
10.3.
And I'd like to add Friendship Street School as 10.4.
Is there a second to Bob's motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, proceed to vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, motion carried. All right. Citizen comments. Ben, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
Is it appropriate now or under 11.1?
If it's relating to AD Gray, it would be under 11.1.
Okay, then I don't have anything to say.
Okay. All right. Select board comments, Mr. Butler.
I'm sorry, I apologize, I have a few tonight. Try to make it short. The Maine Forestry has asked residents to be aware when they do their fall planting of two invasive plants in particular. One is the Asiatic bittersweet and the other is the multiflora rose. Apparently, they cause environmental damage and overtake forests, wetlands, and backyards. So that was one thing. The second, and we'll have a follow-on to this, a number of us attended the Maine Resource Recovery Association conference last week, and I learned that a little bit more about recycling lithium-ion batteries. They're increasingly concerned about these because they're almost everywhere now in electronic gadgets, and the numbers are increasing geometrically every year, and they are a potential fire hazard if their shell is broken or damaged in any way. So I guess we just need to be aware of when we recycle these batteries, don't throw them in the hopper.
Mhm.
Take them out of your gadget and bring them to the transfer station where we have a place where they can be put. These are recycled. A lot of the metal in these batteries is recovered after they're thrown away. And they have a high value to the companies that actually use them. So that's something else I learned. Midcoast Conservancy received a copy of the letter that was sent to Daryl, is confirming they pay their taxes. I think they pay 5% of the valuation of the land on which they are active or which they have, to which they have title. They wrote a check for $1,097 to the benefit of the town. They also pay full taxes on the building they own on Friendship Street. And of course, they give in return. They provide educational things for children in town to do, for adults in town to do, not just in Waldoboro, but throughout the Midcoast. And I had some comments to make about question 3, but I'm gonna cut those short and just say, I encourage people to have a really close look at this question. It seems so commonsensical to have an unalienable right to food, but there's a lot more behind it. And I encourage you to read, go on the internet and read what the reasons are for having this as a question on the ballot and why the Maine Municipal Association opposes it. because it is a potential can of worms in terms of its vagueness and the opportunities it could provide for litigation in the state. It's terribly vague and could cause problems for institutions like schools and prisons and hospitals, where people assert their unalienable right to food and say, I'm not eating what you're giving me, I want something else. That's just one of the problems it poses. So the MMA has come out against this, and I encourage you to read what's behind it. I think it's a great idea in principle. It's really directed to large corporations, corporate farms, and they have a valid argument in their approach to that issue. I just don't think a constitutional amendment of the state of Maine is the way to deal with that. Thank you.
Okay. The only thing I have is the Lincoln County budget. The next meeting is on November 4th over in Wiscasset. Jan? You have anything?
Well, that's interesting. I was just reading in here about question 3, and I've read it before, but I really didn't quite get its purpose. I wasn't sure, but I just started reading a little something in there, so thank you for that. I'll read further. I just wanted to mention that Waldoboro hosted a Fiddle Fest recently, and I don't know if any of you were involved or if you saw the Lincoln County News. They did a wonderful spread on it, lovely pictures. I went up to one of the fellows featured was part of the Old Grey Goose, who was very popular contra dance band in the area years ago. And I went up to Odd Elwise on Friday night. The place was just packed with families everywhere and just all that happy music. And it was, people could join in. So it was just a really nice family-friendly activity that brought a lot of people. I looked around to see who I knew. I didn't know a lot of those people. And I thought that was good because these are people that, maybe new. And then next day I went in the afternoon. They had children, and I thought I was going to hear children play in a band. Now, I've heard a lot of elementary and middle school bands, children play in bands, and so I had an expectation of what it might be. They were as professional as I've heard. They were so good. I think there were 3 different groups that performed. One, Katie Newell's group, Damascotta area, and I can't remember where the others were from, but a lot of children were there, and were they ever good? I didn't get to the Waldo Theater, who I think was one of the main hosts for that in the evening. They had some names in fiddle music, but fiddle music is really happy music, and it was a very happy time, and it brought lots of people into Waldoboro that don't normally come in, and I hope they make that an annual event. It was a fun family kind of event for the whole weekend. It's very nice.
I attended the MRRA conference with Bob, took a composting course there, and that was really interesting. The big statistic that stuck out to me was that 40% of trash taken to transfer stations is organic material that could be composted. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's a huge number. That's almost half the garbage. And we do have a program through Lincoln County Recycling where residents can compost. They have punch cards at the scale house, and if you bring in 20 gallons of food scraps, you can get a free bag of compost from them. But I hope that in the future that we perhaps could manage our own composting program at the transfer station, because I think there's real potential there to cut costs for the town, to reduce our impact on landfills, and provide more benefit for our residents. So that was a good class. My other comment would be that the Conservation Commission is having a fall cleanup this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12. It looks like it's going to rain, but we're going to go rain or shine. Gloves and bags will be provided.
Okay.
Where do people go to get the gloves and bags?
We're going to
and
meet
that sort
at
of thing?
the Medomic River Rest Area, which is the park across from here.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, town managers report.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know that absentee ballots are available. So if you need one, the election is next Tuesday, and our amazing clerk Pam will be available to issue your ballots up until, without any reason, Thursday, till Thursday, and after that, there are some requirements that you would have to be issued one. But election will be held. Actually, I got 2 questions about that today. We are doing in-person voting, so you don't just have to vote by absentee, and the polls are open 8 to 8. So it should be a fun time. I know Pam's been working very hard at it, and it's been a much smoother election than we've had the last 2, with not as many absentee ballots. We have a lot of things happening. I want to announce that the emergency services of Waldoboro are doing their toy drive, as they do every year. We will be having a drive-through fill the emergency services vehicles on November 27th. It's a Saturday from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And we are requesting new unwrapped toys or monetary donations that evening, that late afternoon, for children of all ages. We are not accepting any used or handmade, homemade items at this time due to the COVID constraints. We're still working on whether it'll be just strictly a drive-through event or you'll be able to park and maybe mingle a little bit. But that's the 27th. Turkey baskets from our local food pantries are available. You must sign up on our website or call the town office by November 9th to receive a turkey basket. That went up in one day. We had 30 requests. Typically, in the past, we may have given out 26, 27 baskets. Again, I think it's going to be just like last year where we approached over 50, closer to 60 by the time we were done. So if in one day we got 30 requests, I imagine between now and the 9th, we will get many, many more. We're also doing, in conjunction with the toy drive, and it has not launched yet, but a coats and boots for children in Waldoboro if they need a coat and a pair of boots, just like we did. So the toys, a coat and boots. And through our community navigator today, received a donation of 30 coats for free. 30 winter coats for children in Waldoboro for free. So, of all different sizes. So please come out and support those 2 important endeavors that we do. There'll also be, I know the Lions every year does a Christmas food basket. As soon as information on that becomes available, once we're done taking orders for the turkey baskets for Thanksgiving, we'll do the holiday baskets for Christmas. Also, I have some sad news, but good news because we're not losing them. But Midcoast Maine Community Action Head Start Program had a conversation with their director and their and also their head of education, Barbara Moody, today. We've been meeting with them. As you know, you authorized a building repair for the boiler. In speaking with them again, they have not been able to open, aside from the boiler issue, they have a significant staffing issue, and they've really had to relook at how they do things. Many of their children that were attending Head Start here in Waldoboro have gone to their Newcastle facility. We have about 6 families in Waldoboro that for various reasons did not. They're going to be starting an in-home option for those families, but they do not, at this point, as they're trying to rethink what they're doing and get a little bit smaller, they no longer, especially for this year, need and going forward, the space at Friendship Street School. So they will be vacating it. I have offered them, because there's things they would like to store, I've offered them the scenario of storing some of that up at Public Works. They want to make it clear, it's not like they're abandoning. There is no abandoning Waldeboro, but their model for how they move forward is going to be a little bit different. And again, I think this highlights what everybody is facing is a lack of staff to work in these programs and childcare specifically.
They're not abandoning Waldeboro, but does that mean they don't need the school anymore?
It does mean that they do not need the
So
school.
they're
anymore.
basically terminating our lease arrangement with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So a termination of the lease. I informed our public works director, as you know, the heat was an issue. But again, they don't want us to invest in something if their direction has changed. And it offers us some options with Friendship Street School, obviously. But I just wanted to be very clear, they are not leaving Waldeboro. Again, they expressed an interest in when we create the community center. There are some opportunities there for funding. I think, that's something that they would like to explore. Again, it's not something, I don't think they want to get into an ownership situation or any type of a long-term lease at this point, because again, they're going through something and they don't think it's going to be a quick turnaround. As I talked with them today, finding certified qualified people has been a challenge in working with this. And if you look on their website, there's a lot of job openings. So regardless of the boiler situation at the school, they were not going to be functioning there. So I just wanted to pass that on. But I cannot stress this enough. They're not abandoning Waldeboro or leaving Waldeboro. Their presence will be different in that they'll be doing things one-on-one with kids in their own homes.
Question, will the building be winterized?
Of course. I
Okay.
spoke with our director and our deputy director of public works today. As soon as I got off the phone, I let them know. So what will happen is, the water will be turned off, everything will be drained. We're gonna leave the electric on for now because things will have to be moved. I asked them to provide their space needs, whether it's, if we have space in the public works, like up on the mezzanine in the garage, or if a container could be placed at the garage, that also might work. So I just wanted to let you know, I let Max know, so that's something I'm sure we'll discuss at our next meeting. But I know there has been interest in the past in that building from developers. It is a very unique setting and does have a view of the river. So I think that's something we have to discuss as we move forward, and I would put that on the next agenda. Don't you just love when you hear the train go by? I think that's great. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor to approve? All opposed? Okay, motion carried.
I would just like to point out on there are some disposition forms for Waldeboro that our town clerk has worked on. And she's carrying on the tradition of, keeping our records retention on schedule. And I just wanted to say thank you to her and Tanya. They do like to neaten things up and keep us compliant and neat and clean, and that's very much appreciated.
Okay, moving right along for new business. The first plan for EMS employee discussion and action.
Here you go.
Comments?
If you could just take one, pass it around. I think you already had this in your packet. As we discussed at the last meeting, one of the things, as you know from our last meeting with the budget committee, and you've been hearing us talk about this now since August, is what can we do to retain and recruit employees in our emergency medical services? One of those things that we realized was that our EMS is not part of the pension plan with police. And what that provides is for 25 years of service, you retire with 2/3 of your pay. Currently, they are on the 50% plan. That would be something that is very enticing to people. I will tell you that. For our area, that would make us only 2 out of 4 our municipalities. We would be a municipality that offers that to potential employees. And one of the things that does is it also would be, that opens it up to part-time employees too. And in that number that I gave you last week, that overall number, that will attract and retain staff, and on the short term, that would be roughly a $39,000 change for us to make that change. And what you see in front of you is wording that we would use to have the legislative body, which in our case is the voters, to change the plan to include EMS employees. So I did some research when we did include the police department. This was on the warrant. The select board chose to put it on the warrant. That's how we've typically done these changes. So I do believe that it should be included on another warrant. Now, if you decide to do this on a special warrant, or if you decide to wait till June, that's entirely up to you. But my recommendation would be to put it on the ballot at some point. Again, if you're going to hold a special meeting, say for, depending on what you do with AD Gray, if you're going to hold that as a special, I would put that on the special. If you're not, then we could always do it in June. But I think even just the select board taking the action of putting this on the ballot will show our current employees and people who are potentially coming that this is a very worthwhile benefit to the employees. And again, we're taking these steps to make it not a place where somebody comes to potentially earn, a few bucks if, they want to buy something. This is making our EMS department a much more professional and career-oriented organization.
That's 2/3 at 25 years is really good.
It is, and just so everybody's clear, because there's been some misconception that regular employees, so there's 2, we belong to, right now, police they're the only unit that has 2/3 retirement after 25 years of service. I would say every other employee who is a member of the pension fund, it's 50%.
Yeah, that's
Now, that 2/3, because we've had other employees ask, well, can we have it? It only applies to certain EMS personnel, firefighters, and police departments. So that again becomes something that's not open to everybody, and that's the way the plan is. It's not a choice we have. We're availing ourselves of the options that are available. So we could not include, say, the town office staff in that 2/3 plan, nor could we include public works.
It should be an enticement for
It would be an enticement.
EMS, firefighters,
And when you
for those
actually-
that we have trouble.
And when you actually look at it, as I said at the last meeting, it's a 3.1% increase. But it's something that will pay off when you start
In the long run, that
because people will
makes
be
a
more
difference.
apt to work regular schedules then. So even the per diems, if we're attracting per diems and say they pull every week, they're pulling a shift, maybe 2, and they're permanently on the schedule for the entire year, that service counts, and that's worth something. You know, it's not just, well, I'll work a couple weeks here, then I'll take a break and work a couple weeks there. It gives them an incentive to show up on a weekly basis for us.
Go ahead.
So we have laid out in front of us a proposal to make it effective as of November 1st, 2021.
Well, technically, because of all the research that I did, that would become effective the first of the month after the legislative body, which I believe would be the voters of Waldoboro. It would be that, so that date would change, but this would be the wording. And I will tell you, in the past, the wording has been significantly shorter on the ballot than this. So there will be some, I would say go with this wording, to be
Except
honest with
for the
you.
date that's on there.
Except for the date.
So when is the date?
Well, it depends, the date will depend on whether you
When?
hold a
Mhm.
special meeting for
Yep.
this, a special town meeting that we could do, or wait and do it at the June meeting for an
Mhm.
effective date of July 1st,
Okay, so it's the first of the month after the.
after the action,
Okay, yeah.
correct.
I
Yep.
think we ought to do it sooner rather than later, because we are facing an emergency situation. I'd also suggest, because we're gonna be reviewing the municipal valuation report this evening, that we revisit the tax rate, which we put down to 18 per mil instead of 18.2 per mil, which is what we've changed right along, as a way of helping to fund this without increasing taxes. And I'm not putting that on the table as just a suggestion, that's nothing more than that. Because it is gonna cost the town more money in the long run, and it's money well spent, no question. And I'm intrigued by the idea of putting this on a ballot if we can develop a response to a request for proposals about A.D. Gray within a reasonable period of time. Put them both on the ballot at the same time in a special meeting. It might attract more participation in the meeting and get more people out there to talk about what we're trying to do. So that's, I guess I'm just sort of suggesting that as one way of approaching it. I don't have an axe to grind at all. I'm happy to go with whatever everybody feels the consensus should be, but maybe that starts the conversation.
Okay, any other discussion or? No? Now, is 10.2 rate change for EMS employees, has that been covered with the initial discussion?
No, I can move on to that. So do you?
Okay.
Do we need action on this?
Well, I'd like to know, would you like me to offer you at the next meeting some dates that we could do this at do you want to do this at a special, or would you like to wait to June, I guess? I think if we I don't want to tie it to the A.D. Gray.
No,
I just want to take it on, do you want to have a special for this? And we could do that probably in January, would give people enough time to get through the holidays, or do you want to wait until, say, the town meeting in June?
I think the town meeting in June is too long. I think we need to act before that. We think it's something that's palatable.
So is that a motion?
It's not a motion yet. I'm just trying to choose a reasonable date. I guess I would suggest February 1st or March 1st as a date for the special meeting. Maybe February 1st, because then it could take effect on March 1st. And if we had RFPs out there that people responded to before then, we could discuss putting the A.D. Gray on the same warrant and have people discuss that too. Maybe there won't be anything to talk about.
Freeman?
You just don't know. But I don't want to tie it to that. I agree with you.
I think the EMS situation is urgent. I would try to do it as fast as soon as possible according to the notification procedures, right, ordinance. And it has to do with life and safety, having and weight. I don't believe, given even how long it took to assess Tim Wells' proposal, that we could possibly, if a new proposal, have enough time between now, which is November, and February 1st to really do the due diligence, if there were any other RFP proposals, or even ourselves. And then again, if DOA is interested, we have that question, if there were no grants, would they still go ahead even if they had to pay for the demolition, the restoration of the property prior to construction? So I wouldn't want to link them. I don't think that an RFP process only goes effectively. We haven't even processed it. So a 2-month process I don't think is really sufficient. Just something that I think is strategic and is not a life safety issue. But I would move the EMS to the concept.
Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
What's the motion?
No, is there a motion?
So,
Really, that's what we should have before we talk about it.
yeah. It'd be over Christmas if we do it on December 1st. I mean, you're hitting that period of time of holidays and Thanksgiving. We're more likely to get people to respond to the request to attend a meeting after the first of the year as opposed to prior to the first of the year. In which case we could have it at the middle of January and have it take effect February 1st. Barring a snowstorm, which happens in January, happens all the time.
And February and March.
It's a risk we take.
Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
It is. Yeah.
This wouldn't be something where it's printed, there wouldn't be cost to that, it would be something printed in the office.
Mhm.
You know, it would be like we've done prior.
Mhm.
When we had the marijuana
Yep.
questions, and I think we've had 2 since I've been here, one was the marijuana question. I forget what the other one.
So I'm sensing if there were to be a motion, it would be to move that we put this before the voters as soon as possible after the first of the year in 2022.
Is there a
Force
reason?
majeure, whatever, being taken into account, snowstorms, etc.
So there would be, the first meeting after would be January 11th.
Okay, that sounds good.
Is there a second?
Well, I just wondering, you can't do it sooner? I mean, why can't we do it in December? Beginning of December. I mean, it's kind of
You could.
a hot topic right now. So there's, people know what's going on. It's fresh in their minds, and it's something that really needs to be done.
You could do December 14th. That gives you enough time for notification.
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
your motion failed because of lack of a second.
Right.
Is there
So
another?
I amend it, or we'll make the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we do it on December 14th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, is there any discussion, any further discussion?
Well, that will be a part of our meeting, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, the special town meeting will be part of our.
Correct. And
Mhm.
based on size, I will ask the school if the gym is available that evening. Or do you think it would be okay to have it here? We could have it in the bay. That might be more apropos because people come to vote here. It's up to you.
We've done both. Remember, Jan, we'd go back, I mean, we've had special town meetings in this room.
Yeah, we've had it in this room. It depends on what the issue is and how
Yeah.
many people are expected to
Because it'll be an open town meeting.
come in, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Reserving the school gym would probably be a safe approach. That way we'd be sure to have room if a lot of people showed up. At Lewis Street.
Which school are you talking about, just out of curiosity?
The last time, well, the only time I've done that has been at Miller.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right, okay.
It's up to you, or we could do it in the bays. I don't know if people get confused of where to go, because typically they vote here.
How many people could you fit in there? Those people you would usually come for a vote and then go.
I'd say, times we've had 40 people in there.
But
I'd
this
say
is just
50. I'd say 50 to 60. I don't know how many people would show
Are you
up.
talking with a paper vote or a hand vote?
It's an open town meeting. We could do secret ballot or we could do hand vote. I mean, you've done it both ways.
Right, yep.
I mean, the last time we did the marijuana at the vote at the school, it was by paper ballot. And then they counted it right there.
At the meeting, if you want a secret ballot.
You can
would
just
make that
ask for, yeah,
request.
people can ask for
Yeah.
that anyway.
I think we should do it at Miller School, just to be on the safe side. That's my suggestion.
I can confirm that tomorrow.
Any other discussion? All right, if not, we'll proceed to vote. Everybody in favor of Will's motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried.
And that, just so everybody's clear, that's to hold a special town meeting, special town open meeting on December 14th at Miller School. And that will be at 6 p.m., correct?
And if Miller School's not available, we
I-
have a contingency.
I would then go to the high school if that's not available. How about here, or should this be the second? The
Well, we-
days. Have you had them at the high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the middle school also has a large area. Ben.
Go ahead, Ben.
I just think logistically, you run into a problem with basketball season at the high school.
Mm.
Assuming there one goes forward, but I think that's what.
Yeah.
Middle and then here. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. 10.3, municipal evaluation.
Oh,
No, 10.2.
10.2, okay, rate change for EMS employees. Okay, I didn't know if that was covered.
so based on the direction from the last meeting and the advice we've gotten from the auditor, as you're aware, we are fortunate in that we did anticipate ARPA funding in the budget. As you know, we also sent out the bill to Jefferson and to Friendship. There is a meeting tomorrow with Friendship that our finance director and our EMS director will be attending in the morning. And also, I have not heard anything more from Jefferson. So we will be able to increase the rate of pay going forward based on the fact that we have put the ARPA funding into the budget already. But also because we are anticipating starting January 1st, those increase from the billing. Either way, we need to make those increases now. So what we've come up with is, in the meantime, we would phase this in 2 increases. So the payroll, if you were to approve these increases this evening, these increases, and what we are suggesting is $26 an hour for a paramedic for over 5 years. Under 5 years, it would be $23. EMT advanced $20 and EMT basic $18. And that would go into effect this coming payroll with a payroll end date of November 8th. And then come January 1st, all of those rates would go up another $2. And that would allow us to be competitive. I will tell you this, since this was so publicly discussed at the last meeting, two things happened. One is how many people in our EMT ranks watched this meeting after the last meeting. And I received a lot of positive comment about what it did for the morale of the employees, our longstanding employees, people who have past, present, and prospective employees, how thankful they are for the decisions and the support from the budget committee and the select board. And they felt that the level of understanding of both the board and the committee really impressed them. And since that meeting, we've gotten more applications than we've had in the past.
Oh, that's great.
So I think that speaks volumes that this is the direction to go. I did attend a presentation in another community by CLC. And, we are on track with that. And they are our nearest neighbor. So I think there's a lot of cooperation that you're going to see among all the entities working together towards a better way. So I think it's really important. And if you would approve that first bump at this point in time, I think that would go a long way to helping us fill that schedule. I will also say that some of our applicants are not from Lincoln County. And there's been a lot of positive comments from people not known, to me at least, about how we've been so proactive about getting the word out and making change and realizing the importance of our medics and our EMTs, that people all over the state, especially those in this field, are wishing that they were from Waldeboro, which I think is a nice thing.
Yeah.
When you get emails from people you don't know, or a phone call from somebody you don't know and say, hey, I heard, that's a good feeling.
Did you ever hear from state on Plan B?
No, but I did see in relation to the hospital plan, that it pretty much is, they're not changing. I did see in the Bangor Daily News that there were some numbers put out. Part of that issue that we've heard, and I had a discussion with our director today, is that a lot of the reporting that's done, some towns haven't reported, but some of those figures don't match according to people in EMS. Some of them do not match it doesn't reflect the losses already that have occurred, and it does not reflect some of these license holders work maybe 2 or 3 different places, and each one of those is, so you're turning in, somebody got their shot, but they work in 3 different places. So somebody who works in 3 different places was reported as vaccinated. So are they counting that as 1 or counting that as 3? And I guess from a EMS director standpoint, that's been a bone of contention of those numbers. So I don't think we'll know that for a while till all of that is put in. I could not confirm that. I did call and ask, but I haven't received a call back. But so as far as Plan B, I think it's just going ahead. We still have 2 that are not vaccinated, and that's where we stand. So that will be two people that we will be.
Out of how many?
Well, when you look at it, regulars, 16 these were 2 people who worked 40+ hour shifts every week.
2 of our regular people.
2 of our regular per diem people.
Yep.
Something else that's muddying the waters is reports from the CDC that a lot of the people leaving are older employees, and they're just tired.
I think
take
they're all
that-
tired though.
I take that with a grain of salt, because I think part of the incentive for staying on and not leaving is additional pay. And this step, it addresses, at least in part, that issue if it's an issue for us, or could be an issue in the future, so.
Certainly for getting new people to, and I'm just pleased that they were watching. I think that's nice, that they're playing a role and being a part of the solution, and that maybe are helping making Waldeboro be a destination.
Well, I think that we are very
for
lucky.
workers, yeah.
We are, and it did make quite an impression on me after the couple of days after our last budget committee and select board meeting, that it really did touch my heart a bit, that people were so appreciative. And I wanted you to hear that, because a lot of times decisions made sitting here, or the budget committee sitting here, sometimes you have to say no. And you tend to only hear the negativity, and this was so positive. And I had a long time, probably one of our longest, it probably is our longest running paramedics, who's been here back when this was a volunteer organization. So appreciative, and made it a point to come in and say thank you. And I just thought that was a nice thing.
Appreciation goes a long way on both
It does.
sides.
It does.
It's nice.
Julie, what is the percent of increase we're looking at with this?
Well, it's going to be a 319,484%, $319,484 increase in wages.
In the wages.
And that's over a full year.
Right.
And then the projected increase in revenue is 259,000.
So we'd carry the shortfall out of fund balance, presumably, and then wait till,
I would say ARPA funding,
or the ARPA funding.
right? I mean,
It's not always gonna be there, that's.
it's not, no, and that's why I said, this coming budget, we still have half that ARPA funding. So next year, technically, the 23 budget cycle that we're about to go into is not going to be a horrible, horrible budget. It's going to be one worthy of discussion, because where the discussion comes in is that 2024 budget and on, because you're not going to have the ARPA funding. We have a question in the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Freeman.
Julie, if the staffing is normalized, would you save any money on overtime?
If the staffing is normalized, there'll be some savings in overtime, but I'll tell you what will make a huge difference is running the transfers. Because people don't realize that if we're running transfers, that's where we make a bulk of our money. And that's important to us. And I'll tell you what else it did, and I didn't realize this as much. I mean, I knew it, but it really hit home when I was in a neighboring community for this meeting. And I will say that Nick, who is the director over at CLC, but is also one of our medics that runs shifts here, did an excellent job during his presentation. But it came clear, one of the select board members in our neighboring community questioned whether or not they should be taking our people. So if we were unable to run a transfer, is it right for then CLC to have to take that transfer? And we got into that discussion. I happened to be there as a resident, not as another town manager, but, and I explained, we take everybody, it doesn't matter, but that's where the bulk of the money is. So turning down transfers because we didn't have a staff that could do that because we were so concerned about maintaining our 911 response, that's important. And I think what's going to happen too is our ability then to fill the shifts and take transfers is also going to help at the hospital level, because the hospitals are hurting right now. And I will share, one of our local hospitals was on diversion in the last couple of days for a couple of hours. And according to Richard, that had not happened. He can't remember if that ever happened before. So, you know, some of the crisis that we're facing is you have hospital beds being filled with nursing home patients, and then where do our patients go? So then they have to go to, you know, they can't stay locally, they'd have to go to perhaps Brunswick or Maine Med or wherever. Those transfers are something. And so our ability to be able to move those patients is imperative to our residents and all of Lincoln County. So I think that's pretty much where we're at with that. But that's something that we can't forget, is that the 911 calls we have to go to, whether they have insurance or not. The other good piece of information that we received today is that Medicare is going to go up 5.2%
Right.
for the billing. So that's also a plus in the revenue category. Again, none of this is going to be solved overnight, but we're moving from when we started in August to being on the dark side. We're coming to the light, you know, and I think that if you wouldn't mind approving these increases tonight, and then, you know, going forward come January 1st, those increases, I think that would go a long way.
So these would be effective November 1st?
These would be
Or
effective.
the first payroll
The
period?
first payroll, November 8th. So technically, it would start this coming payroll, which ends Sunday. So it begins Sunday. Right?
I move that we accept these.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
Technically, it started on the 24th, the payroll.
Thank you. Okay. Municipal evaluation.
I'm sorry that Daryl is not here this evening, and we could not get him. There were a couple of errors when this was reviewed. So what I'm going to do is ask that you approve the valuation and can come in and sign it after Daryl reviews the changes Tanya made. There is one number in particular that is giving her a formula that's giving her, she's not the assessing agent or an assessor, but he does give her what to plug in, and there is one number that her and Tanya and Peg just have a question with Daryl. We did try to reach him, but he was not reachable today. So I would ask that you approve pending Daryl's review and confirmation of the numbers, but this has to be turned in by November 1st.
I'd make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
When would you like us to come in and sign it?
I would say by Thursday would be great.
By Thursday? And when do you think Daryl will have a chance to?
Oh, tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
He was only
okay.
out for one day.
Oh, okay.
And I just would like to say, you know, Tanya took the bull by the horns with this one and really went above and beyond. You know, like I said, she's not the assessing agent, but she really did, she took it upon herself to try to find the answer. And I was very impressed with her today. I mean, I always am, but when dealing with assessment, valuation, and all the things that you need to know, I was very impressed.
Any other discussion? Okay, proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right, that leads us to 10.4, Friendship Street School.
So as you know from what I explained during my manager's report, that is now going to be a vacant building in the near future. I don't know what the select board's thoughts might be, but I was thinking you might want to authorize Max to put something together As far as an RFP, if you wanted to talk to, have a real estate agent look at it, I don't know if that's the direction you'd like to go. I'm assuming it's not another building we'd like to keep. I think we don't want to get into the same situation that we had with AD Gray. I think it's something that let's actually explore what our options are. And the market is hot. It might be a good time to pursue something like that. I don't know if you would like to have me put it on, we already have for the next meeting, think about it. In the meantime, I don't know if you would like Max to pursue anything.
I'd like to see an RFP put out for it. I don't know that we need to meet again to make that decision, just to see what's out there and gauge the level of interest. Doesn't mean we can't later on say, well, we want to keep it as a community center or use it for some other purpose. At least we can have that conversation. But finding out who might have an interest in it and what they might want to use it for would be helpful for the discussion.
I agree, Paul. We should look at our options for that building.
Is there a motion?
I'd make that motion that we put out RFPs and see what we get as a response.
Is there a second?
1 second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries.
So you would like that RFP for the next meeting?
Or am I putting together an RFP and just sending it out?
Oh, I think we should look at it before it goes out. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie that when that building closed as a school? It was called something Penny. There's a Penny, and there was a play that the entire school and staff did, and it gave the history
No, I never saw
of this. It's wonderful. It must be somewhere. Of a penny that was dropped when it was brand new, and the penny told the story of the history of that building until the day it closed. It was really well done. It was good.
Okay, item 11.1, AD Gray.
And here we are. Again, you've had some more time to think about what you might want to do. When you might want to, do you want to put it on the June ballot? Do you want to talk about VOA? What are your thoughts? Just so you know, after the last meeting, Max made a list of potential properties for VOA that was sent to them. I have not had a response back from that.
These are all properties on sewer and water.
Or it was, sewer and water was close, I believe, too.
It was close and it was the best options that there were, but they're not good spots. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be honest.
I just feel we're sort of under a fiduciary obligation because the situation is so different now to explore. And if there are no other options, then I'm all in favor of VOA having that for senior housing. But that's what the people voted for in June is not what we're now facing. It's a very different situation. So I think we're obligated to check out the market and see what people think they can do with it.
I think we could lose VOA with that, according to the way they spoke last time. It sounded to me like if we did that, they may not be part of the playing field. I thought that came across
I
rather
didn't
clear.
get that from them.
I did. He wouldn't answer it.
No, he wasn't ready to answer. He
Right, but
needed
it
to talk
didn't-
about
it-
in-house.
Yeah, it did not sound good to me. His response did not sound good, and
So are you suggesting we just go back and ask folks if they're okay with our tearing it down and letting VOA proceed?
well, I think we ought to let people know for sure. I think some people do. It's been,
I mean, that's
You
one
know, I mean,
option.
it-
People can
we've-
turn that down if they don't like it.
I personally think I can't think of a better spot for a person my age. or 20 years younger, to walk to the library, to walk to coffee shop, to walk to the pharmacy. I just think it's an ideal spot for a person my age. And I think VOA has really stuck with us through thick and thin, and that I think we put them on hold for a very long time, and they lived through the whole process quite nicely, and they still want to stick with us. I'm more inclined to stick with VOA.
But how would you proceed with that? Would you have another vote? Would you hold a special town meeting or wait until June? Or?
Well, I think we need to let the people know at some point. I'm not exactly sure how long we ought to wait. I think the sooner is better. Get things moving. But it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Do we have a couple?
Go ahead, Freeman?
Yeah, before speaking, please go to the podium.
Yeah.
I'm Freeman Giles, I'm a resident. As you know from the last meeting, I have nothing but good things to say about VOA. My impression was that they were still interested. They were interested in the site, but they said, and I think we could play the tape, they said if you could find another site, we would look at it. I will repeat the fact that if you think about all the letters to LCN and all the conversation, for them and Tim Wells, it was on the proposition of preserving the school that meant a great deal to a great many people in the town, both those who had gone to the school, even some of the abutters I spoke to. It meant a great deal. I spoke to an abutter that lived nearby for 3 decades. They loved the school. They didn't go to the school, but they loved it. So now that we can't save the school, I think we're in a different situation. That doesn't mean the VOA will not end up being the choice. Unlike, for example, a spec bid, let's say you were going to buy a certain amount of cable with a certain spec, you would be constrained by, did they meet the spec and what the price is? But in this situation, the select board really represents the best judgment of the town. So you have a lot of discretion in what you would put on the ballot. And for example, in looking at a Tim Wells versus VOA, you have a lot of discretion to say why you went one place and not the other. So I would never say otherwise, that you don't have that discretion. So the question is, what's the best process now that the basic concept has changed? I don't think, given the funding cycles, that it would really disadvantage VOA. And they don't, by the way, I'll take a detour here. They don't really need to do another RFP. We put an RFP out, they don't need to really do it. We already know who they are. The only thing that changes for them would be, do we have a grant that would pay for the demolition? If we do, then obviously it satisfies their problem. If they don't, they might still want to go ahead, given the dollar amount of the demolition versus the size of their project and what they would need anyway. So we don't need more from them. We know they are. The question is, what is this town's strategy? That includes, for example, the wonderful presentation that Max made last meeting on this parcel North 1. I would just ask you to sit back a minute, not react to where we were, look at the strategy, set the facts on the ground have changed. Give yourself at least a little time to see what's out there. It could be that even as a vacant property, that no one really is going to give you a satisfactory response. But I think as a matter of process and judgment, and representing, even though it's your decision, representing the interests of the town, I would like you to give the town, yourselves, Max and others, at least a reasonable amount of time to assess other options. Again, as Jan says, maybe there aren't any. And as to water and sewer, I even want to say, well, how much is the water and sewer? It might only be the price of the demolition. So I'd just like to take a breath, sit down, among ourselves and think about the town strategy. And again, community center, I've talked to a lot of people. they would really like community center. Now, I know you're looking at other ways to do it, but again, I think that would not be a terrible situation if it worked and if it was right to have a community center or a medical center on that very, very strategic and precious ground. And it is, I'll leave you with this, it is a wonderful parcel right in the heart of this town with a lot of land, but not all land is equal. This is very, very, as Jan said, it's very, very wonderful land with a lot of advantages.
Okay.
I'm Ben Vale. I'm a resident, a butter, former principal of the school, member of the 80th grade committee. I think you all received a copy of my email, but for the purposes of everybody, I'd like to ask the select board to consider moving this forward more expeditiously than a referendum in June. I think that, to me, the centerpiece of the two referendums were approving senior housing. I know there's sentiment in the town for preserving the building, but there was sentiment in the town to have kids still in that building now, even after it wasn't appropriate. And we know the building's not stable. I would like to see this be part of, frankly, the special town meeting you're having, have it the second thing on the agenda for the purposes of approving the demolition of the building. I'm not opposed to an RFP. I'm not opposed to going forward with or without VOA. By all reports, they're very good at what they do. But there may be others that are very good at what they do. But I would really like to see this building be addressed. And I think it's disrespectful to leave a building that meant a lot to people to just fall into disrepair, increased more and more and more disrepair. I'd like to see this eventually. You got to just do what you need to do. And I would like to do it sooner rather than later. And I appreciate your time.
What year did the school close?
08.
08, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
The Medical Arts Center, I attended a meeting on Friday with Maine Health. They would prefer to be on either Route 1 is really their preference for the visibility and accessibility. They are leaning more towards a single floor plan. So the lot they'd like is a little bit bigger than what would be available there. So I don't, that was one of the options we provided them with town-owned property. Pretty much property out back here would be, I guess, the number one town-owned property that they would be looking at.
Is there any way we could get a look at the list that Max made, just to know what properties, not right this minute,
I mean,
but
I don't mind going up and saying what I thought there was. I don't mind. I can quickly say what I thought there was for spots.
oh, I was just curious what town properties we have.
Who said anything about town-owned?
Oh, okay,
No,
properties.
he did a lot of.
Properties, okay.
I essentially just looked at the sewer and water map
Uh-huh,
and saw what lots in general there were. The only town-owned one I could think of was where the water tower is, which is behind the food pantry. That's not going to be a good spot.
Yeah.
Because right now it's an easement that the Waldeboro Food Pantry gives us. That would have to be built up to code, and anyone who's driven up there knows that it's going to be hard to widen that even further, much less pave it. I suggested Cider Hill because it's on the market.
mm-hmm,
But I also kept giving any shortfalls. One of it being it's still marketed at like 700, isn't it? I suggested, what was it? I suggested an area that's behind. I'm trying to think what would be a great way of describing it. It's to the west of Main Street. We would essentially have to extend Marble Avenue or have Coles Hills Apartments allow us to make a new road cutting right through their area, because there's all this undeveloped land behind it. You could get sewer and water there, but you'd have to get a local road there.
It's up behind Marble Ave,
Coles Hill and Main Street.
Coles Hill,
Coles
yeah.
Hill, yeah.
Yeah.
I suggested some places that are along here on Depot Street, closer to the railroad tracks, because again, it has a sizable chunk of land. You could get sewer and water there, but you would have to have a very generous landowner giving you that access. I'm trying to think where else.
You also said Elm Street.
Elm Street. Oh,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
On Elm Street, at the very end of it, there's
Mhm.
the Lavelle House. That if you're going down Elm Street, it's the last house on your left.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested that one just because sewer, water, and taken to the acreage, you could actually get one. I don't think it would be 32 units. I think it had to be like 20 or 30 maybe. It doesn't have enough to do 32 units, but
Mhm.
you could still get a good amount of. I think I said maybe 30. You could probably get 30 units there.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's Elm Street. It's still a way you could walk. But it's at the end.
Have your bridge you want.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. Well,
the bridge.
I could put it
Have
into
your pocket park.
I could put
one
into
end.
I could put into a housing tip, and then I could get my little walking bridge right there to connect to the river
Hannaford.
area.
Yep.
But those were the places I thought of, and it's the reason why, one of the reasons why I wanted that sewer and water extension project. We
Yeah.
don't have that many places you can put these things, and you need a good amount of land if you're not going to be on sewer and water. And if you are on sewer and water, I hate to say it, most of this town decided to just put single family homes on there with nothing else. And the meeting Julie was talking about earlier with the CLC ambulance, later in that meeting, their planner and Dan Riscotta said, we got to be a bit more strategic with our places that have sewer. Waldeboro has to be the same, because I just listed off the best places we could put this.
Mhm.
Because everywhere else, there's either wetlands that you can't develop, or it's just so inaccessible, or you have to spend a fortune to extend the sewer and water, more than what we have to do
Yeah.
for Route 1.
Not for senior housing, but what happened to that land up where, 32? There's a bunch of land that one person owned,
32.
was it Emerson? No, what's the name?
Is it closer to the industrial park or closer
No,
to the
closer to
Route 1?
Route 1. Erickson,
Erickson.
right,
I mean, he has a lot of land.
at one point, there was talk about building things there. Now, and did he buy the Exxon? Is that part of his property now, or is that still in the Pinkham family?
They, for Eric,
Where the tin can, the coffee can
where
is
the,
gonna go.
yeah, he has where the coffee can was gonna go, and it goes all the way up the hill right there on Route 1.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the problem with anything
And that's
on
a
Route
slope
1
issue.
is DOT issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have it directly on Route 1, or else DOT's gonna have a fit
Mhm.
about it.
On that hill.
And on that hill, well, the hill's its own separate issue because of the slope. But, with DOT, what I was going to get at is he has that one spec that touches 32. So if we're going to have something built on his lot, even if it's closer to the pond, that access has to be on 32.
32, yeah. Does he own the Exxon station that burned down next to
Yes.
Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe he does.
Max, how many acres this site will have?
About 20, 22 maybe?
Would Josh ever consider selling off 4 acres?
Uh,
4 acres is more than enough for POA.
I mean, that's something I can't really answer for a private person. That unfortunately they're not here. I could certainly reach out and ask them, but I'm just thinking the property in my head, because you'd have to get the access. That's the first part, and then it would have to be carved out in a way so that the rest of the area could still be sold off and used for something. I don't know, and that's the thing. I can't speak for Josh, so I don't know what he's gonna think of what's gonna be done. And yeah, So
But he might realize that 4 acres might give him more per acre than he would get for the 20,
it might,
price per acre for 20 acres.
it could, and I would encourage that. And I did say Sutter Hill would be
Mhm.
a good spot. It's a matter of if Josh would sell off, would be willing to cut off just as part of it, 4 acres, maybe even 5 acres, versus selling it all as one. But I can't speak on his behalf.
It's not inconceivable because they did create some lots on that parcel,
Mhm.
which they were selling off individually for houses.
Right.
But it's a different concept what you're discussing.
Okay. Thanks.
Well, I kind of agree with Ben that we should get this resolved sooner rather than later. And I'm loath to lose Volunteers of America. They're a great partner. And I don't know about the timeline. I mean, Freeman thinks we need longer to get requests for proposals in here. That's possibly true. On the other hand, if you're looking for concepts and trying to evaluate who it is that's proposing them and what they have behind them as backing, that's something you can do fairly quickly, and you can discard the ones that don't have the backing and entertain the ones that do, and who knows what's going to come through the door. So I still come back to my original view that we ought to be finding out what the market is telling us about that parcel. And again, it's just the parcel that the school is sitting on. It's not more than that.
Right, we
It's
still
not the
have
empty
that
lot
other,
next door. It's not the baseball field.
Yeah.
It's just that piece. And one of the beauties of what the OA is doing is that it fits that parcel. What they're proposing actually fits it. It really works.
and I think there was discussion, an income stream could help with the other property, keep our ball field up and maintain some of that. There'd be an income stream VOA,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we're there, that would give the town something to, you know, for the, maybe rec center, our rec committee could keep that property
That's right.
up to snuff, and used for other things.
I just can't get beyond the idea of finding out what the potential is given the change in parameters. I really think we're obligated to do that.
And
Much as I hate to lose the opportunity with EOA, I'm not convinced that we're gonna lose it. I think they're willing to stay with us.
I don't know, I got the impression that the last discussion that it was more of an iffy thing. But they said they would work to take it down. They could get a grant and it would not be, we would not have to pay
That's right.
for that. And that in itself is attractive.
And they said they could apply for the grant now and refuse the money later on if they decided
Yep.
it wasn't needed.
That grant deadline to apply is December 1st.
That's a month,
Yeah.
in a couple days.
But the town could apply for it on its own,
Yes.
which is.
Sorry,
more
Freeman, the
flex-
town could apply for,
For the grant on its own,
yep, could.
and then give you more flexibility.
You already authorized that as the select board 2 meetings ago.
We did.
Mhm.
I don't believe, and with your permission, I want to call Brian. I heard him. I do not believe that he said he was on tenterhooks. He wanted to give us time. Wasn't in a hurry. He's missed his funding cycle. I don't believe that the EMS meeting is so quick. We cannot possibly, within a few weeks, see who else is out there. It's just not a realistic thing for people to move on a dime. We're not going to lose VOA. And the odds are, to be honest, they will probably be out there in a reasonable amount of time and say, you know what, there is no alternative VOA, but at least we've done the right thing of giving the town the option. And I also want to clarify something. What Ben said was not he did not link the demolition of the school and its use. He simply said that the school itself, independent of anything else, should be not stay there because it's one needs to come down and should come down and be respectful. And he didn't link that immediately to VOA or anybody else, or make an opinion on who it should be. And the odds are, frankly, it might be VOA. But that doesn't mean as a matter of due diligence for the town that we shouldn't go through a process to make sure that this is now, under new circumstances, the highest and best use for that property. The odds are the VOA will end up being the partner that we're going to take. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't go through a process.
So where do we go from here?
Well, we need to hear from you and Will, I think.
Well, I'm inclined to look at all options. I think the dynamics change so much there. The building has to come down, we know that. But you know, and VOA is a good organization, no doubt, but I'm only dedicated to the residents of Waldoboro, and that's the most important thing to me. So I think if we look at all options and VOA is still one of them, I think that's more fair for the residents to at least say, you know, give them something to pick from. And it might be nothing, it might just be VOA, but we should look into it.
Okay. And that's basically how I feel too, that, you know, it's what the community wants and what will best serve the community, given where we are and with what's going on with the condition of the building. So.
Well, I guess I would make a motion then if it's appropriate, and the motion would be to issue an RFP for 80 Gray, using the memorandum of understanding with Volunteers of America as a context for that request, so that everybody is on the same playing field, that we're not giving anybody one advantage over anybody else. We know what we have in our hand, and basically what we're saying is, are you willing to use this as a basis for your proposal and make a proposal? Come in, see what you've got.
But it's not just a proposal for senior housing,
It's a proposal for whatever they think they can do.
but use some of the same parameters of.
Certainly the bonding and the performance bond and the completion bond and the financial backing, all of that has to be presented with their proposal to satisfy us that they're bona fide people that we can deal with.
Where do we fit in on what the community wants? That's I'm missing that.
That comes once we have options. Maybe we don't have any, but if we do have options, that's, I think, when we go to the community and ask them, what do you want to do?
So like if there's 4 different proposals.
There might be, yeah, there might be 2, or it might be 0, and then it's easy.
Pick one,
Right,
rank your choices, oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and I'm just gonna condense things here to issue an RFP for 80 Gray. You added more to it,
Yeah.
but basically that's what it boils down to.
Do we have
Using
a
the
time,
MOU as context for the
MOU as
RFP.
context, yeah.
time frame?
Yeah, that's actually a question I was gonna make. Similar to my question with Friendship School earlier, am I making an RFP and immediately putting it out, or am I making an RFP and presenting it next week?
Well, how soon can you get it done, Max?
What?
How quickly can you get it done?
I mean, basically, they're gonna be the same RFP, think about it.
Yeah, basically we could.
We've already got the framework from the MOU.
Yep.
And a time frame on get people getting back to it. I mean, we could make an RFP and 2 years from now.
I would think
we're
if you
still
give
here.
people 90 days to come up with a proposal, you're giving them plenty of time. So November, December, end of January, we should have something in hand. And if we've got nothing in hand, then I say, just get the voters to approve moving forward with, if that's what they want to do. See if they will approve moving forward with Volunteers of America and the senior housing.
So 90 days for people to get back, so we
Yes.
know. When that's done, then we have all of whatever proposals will be in are there. And from that point, then, we go to the community and let them know what's available, and we have some sort of a vote to
Yep.
see what they like.
Max, what would you recommend? You think 90 days is not enough time?
I think that's, I'd say 60 days.
Really?
Time to adjust. If someone wants it, they'll take a look at it immediately. It doesn't take too long to put together a proposal. Because for a response to an RFP, they're not putting together like this elaborate whole thing, it's just saying it's qualified people who can do it. I'd say 60 days.
Sounds better to me.
And I can do what I did with the RFP for the Route 1 thing. You don't think you can respond by that time, let us know.
I wouldn't do an RFP that way. I mean, this is something I did for a long time when I worked for the oil company. And with major projects like this, you need to give them more time. They're gonna come back and ask questions. You need to share those responses if you make them with all of the people who've expressed an interest. You've got to set a period for making the bid packages, the proposal packages available to them. I think you want to give them at least 90 days. That's my opinion.
Why do you say 60 is, yeah?
I'm only giving my suggestion.
Yeah.
Ben had a question.
I just have a question related to the grant discussion about taking the building down. Has the town already put in an application, or going to put in an application?
The deadline's the 1st of December, so that's our November, Max and my November to work on. We've been just
Sure, no, I'm not criticizing.
Oh, no, I didn't think you were, no, but
Is it the intent though for the town to independently do that?
that was the direction that we were
Okay.
given.
And then, what's the turnaround on those things you're doing?
The turnaround on demolition?
No, on the getting an answer, when you get the grant.
Oh,
Couple months.
yeah, the federal takes a while.
So, I'm gonna jump 2 hypotheticals in a row, beg your pardon, but the grant goes in, it's approved, would the town then be able to move forward with taking the building down in the spring, summer?
Pending finding a contractor, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you for that.
And we'd issue another RFP for that.
Well, no, that would be a bid.
Well, sorry.
And I think that
You're right.
sometimes where we're getting interchanging, where an RFP is a request for a proposal.
It's
A
not
bid is a much more formal process.
Yep.
Right.
So sometimes the RFP can be a little more loose than a formal bid. So I think that's the difference with the RFP for the project,
The Route 1.
for the Route 1 project was a little more loose than what we would do if we were actually bidding the project.
If we got 3 or 4 good proposals in, we can bid it and see what they come up with.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor?
We have the 90 days in there?
The 90 days is
Okay,
in
no
there,
more than
yeah.
90 days.
That's what it was set up for. All in favor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried.
Reluctantly.
Me too.
All right. Agenda items for next meeting?
Friendship Street School.
RFP review.
Mhm.
We might as well review the 80 Gray one too.
Mhm.
Yep.
And 80 Gray.
The schools.
And we will probably do we'll have to have a public hearing, probably not until the following meeting. We may want to do the public hearing for the question on the ballot for the December for EMS.
So at that first November meeting or at the second one?
I would say the second one. I just want to check the timeline, and it'll be Pam's first meeting, first open town meeting. She's gonna get a lot of firsts in her first
Well, that's
6
good.
months.
That's good.
Trial by
Good.
fire.
You know it.
And then we need
Don't
to come in and sign
And you need to come in and sign by Thursday.
the evaluation. Okay.
Okay, is there a
Put that on
motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?